of Israel-Palestine is how the op continuously goes, but Israel won't like this. They will be upset and they will react a bit like a spoiled child. We believe the time for such rhetoric and such facile catering to the whims of an oppressive state is over. We want the UN to fully recognize Palestinian sovereignty. What is our model going to be? Firstly, every single member of the UN Security Council is going to fully endorse, support giving the issue of whether or not Palestine should be recognized as an independent state to the UN General Assembly. And as the recent overwhelming vote in the UN General Assembly has shown us, they will probably then go on to recognize Palestinian statehood. That's basically our policy. 3 things today. Firstly, why in principle Palestine is an independent state and why the UN ought to recognize this. Secondly, why this will decrease oppression of the Palestinian state, both in the short and at least in the long term, why that's positive. Lastly, why this will allow us to change the internal dynamics of Palestine to make it more unified and a less violent state. Why we believe all this is incredibly useful. Firstly then, why in principle, no thank you, we believe the UN ought to recognize the independence of the Palestinian state. The first thing you want to say is that even if you say Israel will react badly, even if you say oppression might increase, the Palestinian people themselves have considered this question and already have decided that they actually want full statehood. No thank you. You look at how in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip you see overwhelming support for UN recognition of an independent state. If you want to tell these individuals you will suffer backlash, you need to tell us why these individuals, no thank you, have been unable to make a rational consideration about whether or not their right to be seen by the rest of the world as an independent entity is outweighed by the possibility that somehow, no thank you, might result from that. We do not believe that made an irrational choice. No thank you. The second thing we want to say is that they do have a distinct identity from Israel. No thank you. Historically, they are a completely different people. From the 1956 war with Israel, we have seen them constantly reiterate the desire for a two-state solution. No thank you. Something even Benjamin Netanyahu, even Avigdor Lieberman is coming quite close to accepting now. No thank you. We believe that realizing that this is a fundamentally different state and a different identity which wants to self-govern is important. We also think that the reason why no other solution will work is because of the extensive history of oppression, no thank you, between Israel and Palestine, which means that no other solution is ever going to work in the long term. No thank you. You look at how Israel has consistently cut off aid to the Palestinians. We look at how they have removed the tax revenue. We look at how they've controlled their capacity to access the resources within mainland Israel. We believe that Palestinians will settle for nothing less. I'll take opening.
So what kind of Palestinian state are you speaking of, considering the Jewish settlements that reach far into the West Bank, as far as cities like Jericho?
Yes, settlements exist. Firstly, why is it that the Palestinians have made an irrational choice in saying, yeah, there might be settlements, we still want statehood? Secondly, Israel cannot just go on and have a carte blanche. That's my second point about why this will decrease oppression, because if it is an independent state, it attracts huge legal protections which means the rest of the world can intervene. That's my second point. You should wait a bit. But lastly, why is it the UN that should recognize the statehood? Because unilateral declarations are often seen as being irrepresentative in the UN as a uniquely global body with a mandate to recognize new states. When Kosovo was not recognized by the UN, oppression increased because countries thought that they were given carte blanche to do as they wished, no thank you, in that country. Second point, therefore, no. Why this will decrease oppression? Firstly, because recognizing that you're an independent state, no thank you, allows for other countries around the world to trigger the right of collective self-defense and to defend the Palestinian people. For the longest time, countries like Turkey, countries like Egypt, even countries like Syria have been unable to intervene, no thank you, because Israel constantly gives them the rejoinder that this is an internal issue, these are occupied territories, and we have complete jurisdiction, no thank you, over what happens in these regions. Note that such legal arguments are often incredibly important because nations rarely want to risk the prospect of international prosecution or even legal ignominy if they go ahead and do this without any kind of legal recognition. But secondly, we tell you, recognizing you as an independent state gives you huge powers that we are now entitled to intervene and defend on your behalf. Like the ability to control the aid that goes into your borders. No thank you. Like the ability to control the trade that you carry out with other nations as an independent entity. Like the ability to prevent countries like Israel who collect your tax from withdrawing their tax revenue unilaterally and preventing civil servants within the West Bank and the Gaza Strip from getting paid for months at a time. No thank you. We believe that recognizing statement allows nations to intervene on the behalf of Palestine, or at least apply lots more pressure on Israel, no thank you, especially if the US, as per policy, recognizes this. It will hugely pressurize Israel to change its mindset. But more generally, no thank you, why do we think that Israel simply cannot afford to be belligerent? Firstly, because the regional landscape has changed massively. If Israel becomes more belligerent than Egypt is simply going to just rescind the Camp David Accords. Israel cannot afford that. Any politician, no thank you, who risks that is just going to be voted out of power. We do not believe Israel will overreact. But no, even very recently, when Israel reacted to the recent vote in the UN by threatening to build 3,000 more settlements in the sensitive E1 region, both the UK and France threatened to withdraw their ambassadors in protest. We think there's real international frustration, no thank you, with what Israel has done, and nations are fully willing to act on this, especially under our policy. No thank you. Lastly, we see there's a huge sea change in attitudes towards Israel over the recent decade. Look at how over 60% of Americans think that Israel's actions are disproportionate. Look at the number of individuals who voted for Barack Obama despite his relatively unorthodox stance, or at least explicit support of returning to pre-1967 borders. We think there's huge international support for our policy. Lastly, why is it going to improve the internal situation within Palestine? Firstly, because if you are an independent legal entity and a state, you are responsible for what goes on within your borders. You can no longer say we have no control over groups like Islamic Jihad who continue to fire rockets from within our borders towards Israel, towards city centers. Secondly, what also happens is that you empower the more moderate factions, groups like Fatah, and even groups like Meshal within Hamas. So for instance, Haniyeh, who is the current person within the West Bank, does not support unification of Fatah and Hamas, but Meshal does. This empowers individuals like Meshal at the point at which conciliatory policies become recognized in the world and give them a huge political advantage within that particular context. This means that we'll see a gradual moderation of the climate within Palestine. It reduces the kind of conflict we see happening between Palestine and Israel. This makes the world better for everyone because Israel now has less motive to intervene and to react disproportionately as well. For all these reasons, we're incredibly proud.